He was a serial rapist. My mother was the 14th victim.
If abortion had been legal, she absolutely would have aborted me.
My daughter was the best gift that I have. And I used to tell her, how does it feel to be the product about being raped, your mom being raped? And she used to tell him, I'm the product of her love for me.
Thank you all so much for sitting down with me. I'm so glad you're here and so grateful for your willingness to share your stories. I'd love to start with you, Denise. Can you share with us your experience with abortion?
Yes, so at 16, I conceived through date rape. I went out to a party with some friends, and I mean, I was young, but there was a lot of drinking involved, and one thing just led to another and just took me into the car. That's where the rape happened. I was barely coherent, at that point, and I do remember just coming out and barely being just even able to walk and just, feeling just not okay. A few months later, I started feeling really sick, and I'm like, something's wrong. I'm 16. I'm like not sure what is happening. By the time I found out I was pregnant, I was already like 4 months into the pregnancy. And everybody that I confided in actually pushed me towards having an abortion. They were just said, what are your parents gonna say? What's gonna happen? Like, it brings a lot of shame, especially through the circumstances, right? Ended up going to a clinic, and there was a lady there. She was a nurse. I had an ultrasound, and she said to me, she looked at me and she said, and I'll never forget her words, you remind me a lot of my son, and I don't want you to ruin your life. So I'm gonna give you this paper, and so you can have an abortion and they won't charge you. You just have to go to LA. And at that point I thought, wow, this girl's like, she's heaven sent, right? My naive thinking. And so, needless to say, went down to LA. It was a 2-day process. I remember there being like pro-life protesters outside. At that point, I was just wanting to just get rid of this. And that's what my mentality at that point was like, I just want all of this to go away. I don't want to have to face it. I don't want to have to tell my parents. And that after that, I had my abortion. And so in the beginning, I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel guilt. I was just like, all my problems went away. It's going to be fine. And it wasn't until years later that when I started to realize what an abortion really was, that my eyes were opened. And that's when the influx of emotions of the guilt, shame, fear, everything just flooded. I spiraled out of control. There was a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of promiscuity, and it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ that I was able to find forgiveness and healing.
So some women would say, well, you only felt that way because pro-life people made you feel that way later. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say that in my case, it wasn't because a pro-life person came to me and said, hey, this is what you did. For me, it was simply just researching what is an abortion. And I think what really breaks my heart is that, from what I know, is that medical providers take an oath like they should do no harm. And yet it was a medical provider who persuaded me to have an abortion and even provided a way to do it to where I wasn't going to be charged. And so that to me is something that really just baffles my mind.
Thank you for sharing your story. Jerry, what are the circumstances of the abortion that you experienced?
So it's amazing to me, Lila, how similar my story is, like Denise's. I was 18 years old, and I went to a party the summer after graduation, and I accepted a ride home from an acquaintance. And he didn't take me home. He took me to a wooded area, and there I was raped. And I felt a great deal of shame. I was silent. I didn't tell anybody. And my parents never knew. And my siblings, I did tell my siblings, and they encouraged me to get an abortion because they didn't know any better. They thought about what's going to happen to my future. Yeah, what will mom and dad say? You know, I was born and raised in a very devout Catholic family, and I went ahead and had an abortion. And I never spoke about it to anyone. I never spoke about it. No one ever asked me about it. It was never talked about. I didn't know. I knew that the rape was not the reason I had the abortion, right? I never thought of myself as reflecting on the birth of the baby and thinking that, oh, there might be something, it'll always be a reminder. It was just the fear that I wouldn't be able to go and move on with my life in a way that was healthy at all. And just the opposite happened. I certainly was not able to move on with my life in a way that was healthy. My life was in a tailspin. And it was after that I began to really have the manifestations of the abortion really, really hit hard in many different ways. Like you said, the promiscuity, the need, somebody fix this. But I hadn't reconciled with the abortion at all. And then 5 years later, God put a wonderful man in my life, and I gained 2 stepchildren. And 2 years into our marriage, I had an incredible life-changing experience with Jesus Christ in the Eucharist when I went to a weekend retreat. And I've been on a healing journey ever since. And first, God's forgiveness, and then forgiveness of self and everybody involved. And that's where I'm at now. I have forgiven everyone involved, including the rapist.
Thank you for sharing. Denise, I know you shared you had a similar experience, it sounds like, to Jerry's. Looking back on it now, have you been able to find healing from what you endured?
Yes.
And what has that journey been like for you?
It's been like an onion, a lot of different layers. Just when I think that I'm past one level of healing, something happens. Or, obviously when I found Christ, there was a lot of, for the first time, I felt loved. I felt like the void that was missing was filled in a very healthy manner. Found my husband, and there was that layer of healing, right? Explaining to him what happened. Then I was told that I wasn't going to be able to have kids because of the trauma of the abortion. And so, luckily, that I was able to conceive and have, children. So when I had my first daughter, there was another layer of healing because I started to think of what could have been. And so it's just been a lot of different layers of healing. Even just today being here is another layer of healing because it's been 21 years in January that I had my abortion. So just when you think that the healing ends, it really doesn't. It's just different layers. And just meeting, people that were conceived in rape, that's another layer of healing that you think of what could have been. And so it's been a very long journey. I learned that you can't heal trauma with trauma. And so the only way is obviously through Christ. And, I have amazing mentors, and just being able to discuss it and talk about it. And kind of like her, my parents till this day don't know about it. They might after this, right? But I'm thankful. I'm thankful that because of Christ, I am able to heal and find that forgiveness that a lot of times other people might not want to look for it because you have to face it. And so it's just, like I said, it's been a very slow process, but it's been beautiful just to be on this side and being able to just embrace the process.
Thank you for sharing. I'd love to hear each of you, starting with you, Anne, just briefly your experience with discovering that you were conceived in rape, and hearing the stories from Denise and from Jerry, how that impacts you.
I was told at 12 that I was conceived in rape. I immediately thought I was basically fatally flawed coming from, I didn't immediately think that. Immediately I was just heartbroken that my dad was not my biological dad. This is all happening at the age of 12, so I didn't have language around, I didn't know how to process. I just was afraid that I was going to have tendencies towards alcoholism or violence, or I didn't know anything about him. So I didn't know if he was a serial rapist. My mother was the 14th victim in a matter of days when he was out on work release for prior rape offenses. And this was all in Tacoma, Washington in the early 80s. So I know he wasn't a good man. He followed her in the middle of the day, her front door she left open as she was carrying in groceries, and violently attacked her. So in my logic at the time, I thought, okay, family tree, this isn't going to bode well for me. At some point, something's going to manifest in my life where I'm different than everyone. And then I started picking apart, like, you know, my appearance. Oh, I don't really like this feature. Must have been him. I wish I was taller like my mom. Thanks, rapist. I mean, these are just the thoughts that I was going on and on about. And I numbed out with alcohol and drugs and other poor choices. But I had, thank God, a realization that this isn't working for me. I'm miserable, and I shared with a therapist the story of my birth, and I felt a weight lifted immediately. And she gave me homework, as therapists do, and just each step of the process of honestly just saying the secrets that I had in my mind out loud took the power away. And hearing your guys, okay, so I don't want to just end on the I had a hard life, because that was 10 years of my 41 years. I've had a beautiful life. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for my children. So hearing your stories makes me sad that you guys were robbed of what my mom has always told me was the greatest gift, which I didn't believe her for a long time, but I do believe that now as a mother. Like, you can't replace a child. You can't. And you guys deserved that. You deserve to have a daughter text. I text my mom every day and tell her she's beautiful and I love her and thank you for being a wonderful grandmother and mom, and we get our nails done, you know, the things you should be doing as mothers with your children now. And I feel like you guys, you were attacked and then followed up with another attack.
It's heavy. I want to lead with, I love you. And I'm thankful for you. And thank you for sharing your story, being courageous enough. And I know it's not easy. But my mother, I found out that, you know, at 27 years old, actually, I knew I was in foster care and adopted at 8, but I didn't know how I was conceived. So I had this amazing, beautiful, you know, God-fearing family. I tell people I had a drug problem. I was drugged to church every time the doors were opened up. So I had this relationship with Christ early on, but I always just, I was biracial in a white home in the South in the 80s. I was born in 82, and so you know, I found out that I was foster care and adopted because they said my skin color, I was weird and different because my skin color was different. And but I always, even though I had this loving family, I just didn't understand. I always felt like I didn't belong. I wasn't wanted. Why didn't my mom want me? So at 27, I found out that she was actually raped by 5 men. She was gang raped at the age of 18. She was mentally challenged, only functioned as an 11-year-old. She was in a mental facility. So she was being pressured every day to abort me. So what I found out that I was wanted, I was loved. She fought for me. Even on only 11-year-old mental capacity, I was worth it. She carried me homeless, you know, to the end of the pregnancy, 9 months pregnant, living in a cardboard box, you know. And God intervened, and all these people God brought into her life. You know, I wouldn't be here, but she did love me, and she did give life to me. She named me Steventon. I'm the only Steventon in the world, you know. But even with only 11-year-old mental capacity, she knew her baby had worth and she had value. And I think, again, the impact is, it's kind of, sometimes I feel like, I don't want to share that to make you all feel more guilt. But I've seen God do the opposite, you know, to share. And so I just, like I said, that's why I led with, I love you and I'm thankful for you. And God has a purpose and a plan. And I know I'm thankful. He's in the business of taking things that were meant for evil and turning it for good. So, thank you.
I was 18 when I learned how I was conceived, 19 when I met my birth mother, who was really happy to meet me at the time. But she told me she was abducted at knife point by a serial rapist. And it was just truly horrific circumstances. She was a single mom heading to the grocery store at night right down the street from her home. And she told me that she had been raped by her grandfather growing up. And she just thought, I've been through this before. I'm just going to get this over with. Just got to get home, make sure my children are saved. My brother was 10 and my sister was 12. And it was really difficult learning that I was conceived out of these horrific circumstances, you know, very similar thing, where, you know, wondered, like, what is my worth? Maybe there was a way that I could prove my worth, you know, if I become an attorney, which I did, and, you know, be successful, then people could look at me and see that I sort of had a net value to this world. And I had been worried that she wouldn't want to meet me, and I was hoping maybe there was some mistake. It was the Vietnam War, you know. I was born just 3 weeks before Woodstock, you know, maybe I was a love child, I thought, growing up. But she told me, you know, that the circumstances and there was no getting around it anymore. And so we met on her 51st birthday, and being adopted and everything, I felt like Forrest Gump, like the feather, like just my life is being haphazardly just tossed around. And I wanted to find roots and feel grounded and feel safe. And hearing that she didn't consider abortion was going to be part of that. And instead, she told me the opposite. And she said that if abortion had been legal, she absolutely would have aborted me. She just said, you don't know what it was like. It should have been my right. Wow. And it was just devastating to hear her say that, you know, I should be dead. And if I hadn't been protected, that, you know, she would have ousted me, basically. And she changed her mind 6 years later. But I really struggled with her saying that. I found my worth, you know, and my value and identity through Christ, and that the scripture says, though my mother and father forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Like, that meant a lot to me. It was great to hear that she changed her mind. And then I began speaking, and I've been speaking for decades now. But early on, in my 20s, when I would share my story, I'd have women come up to me who would basically confess their abortions to me, where they had never shared with anybody else. And in some instances, it was after rape, and others it wasn't. And then it was really odd that so many women would then ask me, do you forgive me? And I was just befuddled, because it's not my place. Like, I don't judge you. Like, I don't condemn you. But I told them, like, to the extent you need to hear it, like, yes, I forgive you, because I felt like they still wanted to hear that. They saw me as a surrogate for their child. Sorry, I'm gonna lose it. And what they really wanted to know was, does their child forgive them? Yeah. And so I was just, you know, share what I know, that in heaven there's no more tears. And I absolutely believe that your child forgives you. And so I would tell them that, yes, you know, I forgive you. I mean, even when my own mother told me she would have aborted me, like, I didn't hate her, you know? Yeah.
She's your mother.
Yeah. And there's people who say, oh, you must hate me. Like, we don't hate anybody.
Denise, how does hearing the stories from Anne and Stevenson and Rebecca, it's very emotional, but what's going through your mind?
It's brought a level of healing that I never thought I needed. I've never had the opportunity to sit and speak with somebody who was conceived in rape, right? I feel like it's my child kind of foretelling a story, right? That I never gave them the ability to. So I love that you guys are able to share from your perspective, because it really does bring a level of healing of maybe what it could have been like, right? And so thank you. You know, just to see you guys be successful. And, you know, I know you said there was dark days, but there was also good days. And so it just really it just goes to show, I mean, and I'm not trying to be like a Debbie Downer, but it just really emphasizes my stance with the pro-life, right? No matter what, like every child deserves to live. And that was a promise that I made to myself, is that I was not gonna let Satan take another baby while I was alive. And that's what I've made my life mission, is to perhaps tell my story. And so just hearing your guys' story just really brings my vision, like what I feel like, in full circle, right? As to, yes, I'm passionate. Yes, it's important. And there is testimonies of what children that are conceived through rape, what they can do, right? Because in the midst of the trauma, all you think about is, what is your life going to be like? Are they going to be loved? Are they going to be accepted? And this is before I really was, really knew Christ. So just being able to hear your guys' story just further emboldens me, and just really want to continue to take the stand for life. So thank you.
One thing I was thinking when both of you were speaking is that you guys both deserved to be mothers. We always say the baby deserves to live. You deserved to be mothers. No one told you what miracles await in your life by becoming a mother.
Yeah.
Even at 16, 18, 13, 39, it's one of the biggest impactful things that's ever happened to me in my life. People must not know, but you could have healed so much sooner, both of you, and saved decades of
Absolutely.
unhappiness.
And I have a question for you. What was your mom's reaction when she told you? Was she embracing you? What was that moment? Because you were young, 12 years old.
She, in my opinion of that experience, was still traumatized from the attack. So my memory of her telling me was, I hate to say the word cold, but it was very robotic. And she was at one side of the room and I was at the other. And I don't blame her for that. I think she, when talking about it, had to almost disassociate. So when she told me, it was very matter of fact. Here are the facts. And I, in hindsight, wish I would have been held by my mom. Even though I know she loves me. She still loves me. I love her. So I would urge anyone in their life to heal, because that healing is passed on.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories. We're going to keep talking and invite another guest to join us.
When I was 12 years old, I was on my way home from a shopping center, and two guys picked me up. They asked me for some directions, and in a few seconds, they took me in their car. And I didn't know what was going to happen. They were driving around, and eventually they stopped, and they were drinking, and they hit me, and they brutally raped me. They put a knife to my face. I still had a scarf, and other ones in my body, even now. And they left me for dead. So when I was found, they rushed me to the hospital. And nobody's prepared for something like that. Like, what can your family tell you? Nothing, it's because they don't know any other better. So I only hear people telling me how sorry they were feeling for me, and that my life was already ruined. That nobody's gonna love me, nobody's gonna care for me, because I wasn't worth it anymore. As a Spanish, virginity, it's a big deal.
Right.
And because of that, nobody was gonna marry me or wanted me. So I feel the shame, and I feel like I was so mad at myself because I was feeling guilty. Why didn't I run? Why didn't I scream enough or fight? I was only 12 years old. And like I blame myself. And especially seeing people, the way they looked at me like I wasn't worth it anymore. One night, I took all the medication because I couldn't handle the nightmares. I was afraid to go outside. And I thought my life wasn't worth it anymore. So I took all this medication and I ended up at the hospital again, where they told me that I was 13 weeks pregnant. And the doctor came in and he said, but don't worry, abortion is legal. You can have an abortion. You don't have to live with the consequences. And the product, not even the baby, the product is going to be a reminder for the rest of your life. And you're just a child. The pregnancy will be very hard, so it might not even survive. And then I asked the doctor if the abortion was going to undo the rape. He said no. Is the abortion going to take away the nightmares? He said no. Is the abortion going to make me feel safe? And he said no. And I just didn't see why they were offering me abortion instead of offering me support, help, compassion, legal advice, all that I needed at that moment, and just didn't understand why. So they did an ultrasound, and that's when they told me if I could hear the heartbeats. And at that moment, I just knew that I had this little person inside of me that was my baby and nobody else. And even though I knew it was going to be hard, the pregnancy and supporting my baby, I just knew that my baby needed a better life than the one that I have. And she became the greatest gift of my life. And she helped me to heal. She gave me hope. And just looking at her face, I just never understood why they wanted me to give her the death penalty. She was not a second-class citizen. You know, her value wasn't just the way she was conceived. Just knowing that I was pregnant and having this baby gave me hope. And when she was born, I saw the light in her face, and I knew that my baby needed to be protected. And I was gonna do anything to keep my baby safe. And because I knew she deserved a better life than the one I have.
I mean, I'm just left in awe of what you have overcome. Because not only did you just overcome the trauma of rape, but the cultural system, right? And that's not easy. And so just again, hearing your story just further just really proves of why life matters, right? And I'm just happy that there's people like you that are fighting for life. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Society doesn't want you to bring the baby to birth. And
No, they make you feel like we should be ashamed. Why?
Yes.
We didn't do anything. The rapists should feel the shame and they should be punished, not the babies.
Yeah.
And what really, it's very uncomfortable is we need to change the narrative. Why they're making us believe that we are not worth it anymore, that we don't deserve better, that our life has ended because we're pregnant, unexpectedly pregnant, especially from rape. And especially, why do they offer abortion? Why is the only solution they offer? Why they don't, if you decide to keep it, if they say that's a pro-choice, why they don't give you the choice to keep the baby and offer you really help? Instead of offering me help, people judge you. There's bullying, there's discrimination because they tell you, well, what were you wearing? It's your fault. What kind of clothes did you have? What were you doing, walking? I'm like, I'm not supposed to walk anymore?
Yeah, I think
Is that my fault?
I think
to
that's
trust?
That's one of the things that I had to work through was that I was blamed too because I put myself in that position. And so even if I'm honest, even till this day, I feel like I'm partly to blame because I put myself in that position. And it's like, so that narrative is so embedded in your mind. And I can only imagine the shame and guilt that other women feel because of what they've been told. You put yourself in that position.
Yeah,
and it's like, I could have, but that doesn't give somebody else the right to
Yeah,
violate
but they also
me.
judge you because
Yeah.
you're a teen single mom.
Yeah.
And you started early.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like what kind of person are you? You might be very, promiscuous or something.
Yeah.
And because of my daughter, I didn't end up drinking or doing drugs or, being promiscuous. I mean, she saved me from all of that. And I wanted to prove society wrong. I wanted to prove all these people that they were wrong, that I was going to raise my daughter by myself, and I was still put myself to school and make out of something of my life to prove them that my life didn't end with the pregnancy.
Yeah.
That I was still valuable, and that I wanted to help other women who went through the same thing, because it's the moment that everybody should speak up. There's so many rapes, and we had to keep quiet because what they're going to think about us. Why do we have to feel that shame? So we had to do something, and I just think it's time for us to speak up and make people change. That abortion, it will never be the solution, because even now I struggle with PTSD. Unfortunately, my daughter passed away a few years, so something is still hard to talk about it. But if you ask me what was the worst thing that I ever gone through, it was losing my daughter.
I'm sorry. My birth mother, who had me after being raped, she said that there were no pregnancy centers back then, but if there had been, she would have gone. But she said at the time, nobody offered her any other help or hope, just abortion. And sadly, even though there are more pregnancy centers today than there are abortion clinics nationwide, still, most women don't know that there is help and hope, and they're just offered abortion, even today.
Yes, and there's so much help available today. And before, like you said, didn't know where to go, where to ask for help. Even though I would not change anything, I would not even change the rape, because my daughter was the best gift that I have. And she gave me so much love. And she was so special, just like you, like you all three, that your value is not in the way you guys were conceived. She used to go to the abortion clinics, and they used to tell her, how does it feel to be the product about being raped, your mom being raped? And she used to tell them, I'm the product of her love for me. And I don't deserve to die for somebody else's crime. The way people's conceive, it doesn't make any difference, you know, in their value. Everybody has their own dignity, and
I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. I just felt so bad for you three being shamed for something that was no fault of your own. And it made me think of my mom sharing with me that even within her friends, they all kind of chastised her for leaving the front door open when she carried in groceries and the attacker followed her in. You know, you should have never left that door. I would never leave a door open. Why is that just a protection response from people thinking this will never happen to me because I will never, walk down the street or grocery shop at 2 p.m.? I don't understand it. I don't know why it hit me so hard. That, and then also you saying that you wouldn't be who you are today without your daughter.
yes.
I feel the same way about my daughter, and I know my mom feels the same way about me.
Yes. I'm sure she loved you so much, and I'm sure it was so hard for her to tell you, because it was so hard for me to tell my daughter, because I didn't want to go public, because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But she always knew that it was something different. When she was only 4 years old, she wrote this letter where she was telling me, thank you for not giving me away. Thank you for keeping me. Thank you for giving me my life. When I read that, I knew she was the one who gave me my life back. And it was hard because at that point I knew that I wanted to start sharing and I needed to heal by talking about it, because I was going to abortion clinics, and I used to tell them, if I did it, you could do it. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy, but nothing in life is easy. But it's definitely worth it. And so I told her when she was almost 18, and I asked her if it was okay to talk about it, and she said yes, because she knew that I loved her so much. And she knew that I struggled with PTSD. And she used to be there for me when I had nightmares. And so that's why I would not change that moment, that horrible moment that they could have killed me. I went home. A lot of girls don't come back home.
So what I would say is I get the honor of carrying on my mom's legacy.
Yeah.
She passed away on Thanksgiving of 2020, but before that, she got to meet all three of my daughters, her granddaughters. She was mentally challenged. That she died at 57, but she was still only an 11-year-old child. So they colored together. They played with Barbie dolls. And it was hard. I had been sharing my story publicly, nationwide at that point. And I have a video of when I met my mom for the first time. And I show that video, and I call her my hero. You're a hero.
Thank you.
I shared publicly that she had passed away, and what they told me was, she's not just your hero. She's ours too. So I get to carry on that legacy because of the choice that she made to give me life, right? And so I just thank you. And you are a hero.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories and for your courage. It makes a huge difference.
Being able to meet men and women that were conceived through rape, not only did it bring some sort of hurt, but it also brought a lot of joy to see that every life is worth fighting for.
I want other people who were conceived in rape to know that they have an infinite worth. They were created by God in His image for a purpose.
Being in that space together, and then also looking across the table at someone who chose a different decision than my mom, but I was able to look them in the eyes and tell them, I love you, and you also have value and worth.
There was so much love and compassion for me, who actually aborted my baby.
Meeting people like me, up until 48 hours ago, I didn't know there were people that were conceived in rape. And the strength that I've received from hearing their stories, I'll take with me for the rest of my life.